It's all legal now.
Yeah, we're on.
Oh shit! So we have to behave.
Yeah. Don't say fuck or bugger.
So right, I'm going to do this to make as little editing as possible because I like shit simple.
Absolutely, it's the way it goes, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. So, welcome to this episode of Mind Matters. Today, I have the pleasure of chatting with Peter Lant, who I've spoken to before. Peter is a personal trainer, strength coach, is getting more into the mindset piece. And really, I think all your work is, as you've described to me prior to starting this, is really just about helping people refine and redefine and make themselves better at being themselves.
Yep. That about sums it up. It's a really hard. It's funny because you were asking, how do you want to be introduced? And I was like, I don't know, because of what I've just told you before we started recording. It's like, there's so many things happened that there's no definition. It just is what it is, and it changes over time. So yeah, basically I just try to help people physically getting stronger and fitter and healthier, without all the rubbish that goes on. That's what we do on the podcast that we do, which you were a guest on as well, which was lovely. Yes. But it's like, trying to get people to get past all the jargon and that of absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And just keep it simple. And and do exactly what they need to do right now to get them to where they want to be. And that's basically it. And there's not a template for that, unfortunately.
No, there's not. And labels get in the way a lot of the time. It just makes more complicated unnecessarily.
Yeah, totally. And in the world of social media and everything, it's like, do this, just follow these steps and you'll get there, which works superficially for a certain amount of time. Yeah. Unless you get to the root of whatever it is that's got you to where you are now, then it's just putting a band-aid on a plaster. Yes. Plaster. How do you say it? My girlfriend takes the mickey because I'm from Newcastle and I say plaster, and she's like, "That's posh speak."
You're an anomaly.
Exactly. Yes, an enigma.
So, in terms of our conversation today, like as I said just now, this is about people's psychological journeys through life. What you've learned from your trial and error, test and adjust, and all the heroic failures and fuck ups that we have. And I think that the better the life, the longer the list of those there is in people's journey. Yeah. So really, it's up to you. I let you start where you want to start, and with that premise in mind.
It's funny because, like I said, you asked me a couple of weeks ago to do this, and I've overthought it. But I was thinking where to begin, and it actually the current state of where I'm at now began when I was like 39 and I got divorced.
Okay.
But that actually began, and I'll cycle back to this, but it's hitting you straight between the eyes. And it began when I was 15, when I found out my dad sat me down because he was in a bit of a state, and he told me something about a family that I wasn't ready to hear because I was 15 years old. My dad, who, your dad's a big figure in your life, a big, strong figure. My dad was in the he wasn't in the Marines like you, but he was the last year of national service. He was born in 38, so what was that, 51 or whatever. It was the last year of national service,
right? And
he was in Cyprus, so he always would see pictures and he goes, "Oh, that was when I was fighting for you." But anyway, he was a funny bloke, but he was strong and all that, as people of that generation were.
Yes.
And everything, but he sat down, he was crying in front of me. I was 15 years old. My brother had moved out. He's 6 years older than me. And he told me something about my family, which was basically it was about my mum and her. Let's just say my maternal grandfather wasn't a very nice man.
Okay.
We'll just leave it at that. And that kind of, I didn't know what to do about that. I just sat there, listened to him, and I was like, okay. And then I didn't know what to do about it after that. But then once I knew that, I could see, their relationship wasn't that great, maybe, and just lots of things started showing up, and I could see why he was like he was, she was like she was. I know that they loved me when I was a kid, and at that time, but like they never really told me, and all that sort of stuff. So it was kind of, that all happened when I was 15.
Right.
And like I say, it was 25 years later when I actually started to have to do something about it. But from then, they were very good. They were very good with me, and got through school, got an education, went to university, got a maths degree, went and got a job at the electricity board in Newcastle. The electricity board at the time, as it was, Northern Electric.
Yeah,
yeah. And that was before like it is now. I don't work in the electricity industry or the utility industry anymore, by the way, before anyone starts sending me death threats and all that. Like, because at the time of recording, it's not a good place to be, is it? But anyway.
You have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. But yeah, so I got a job at Northern Electric, and then they got taken over by a company in Swindon. So I moved out to Swindon in 2001, down south. And I was a trader for them. So I was buying and selling electricity and gas, okay, and all that sort of stuff, which was very well paid, so, and that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to go and earn money, because it was like, what do you do when you finish university and what have you? I'll just go and work for a company and earn as much money as I can. And it was very well paid.
Makes sense.
So there was lots of drinking and debauchery involved. So I got out of shape, and then 2004 was when my dad got ill. So he was 65. He died when he was 65. He got lung cancer. He started smoking when he was 5 years old.
Wow.
In 1943. And he smoked until he was 48 years old. And then gave up because I asked him to, because I think I was like 10 at the time, and I asked him to. So he got lung cancer, and he died in 2004, 29th of January 2004, which was my brother's 33rd birthday. So happy birthday, bro. It was a bit of a coincidence, that one.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that kind of, that hit me, because I was like 65. I mean, that's only 20 years older than I am now. You know what I mean? So I was like, blimey, it's no age. My mum was 59. And he'd been kind of looking after her, because she hadn't processed what had happened to her when she was younger.
Yeah.
That I spoke about earlier. She hadn't processed that. So I think he basically took on all that stress for her. So obviously smoking, lung cancer, smoking, that's not good for you. But he used to try and lose weight. When he gave up smoking, he put on loads of weight. He used to try and lose weight, but every Monday he'd find some reason to stop. He'd get stressed.
Yeah.
But he worked in a factory making sweets. You know what I mean? There's nothing to get stressed about in that, really, is there? Let's face it. So he I think basically life was just stressful for him, because he was trying to look after my mum and stuff like that. So that's what, that killed him in the end, as far as I can tell.
Okay.
So anyway, after that, it kind of hit me, but then I was like, but I just carried on doing. I was 27 at the time, so I just carried on doing what I was doing, earning as much money as possible, going out drinking, what have you. And then I met my wife a year later, and that got me to thinking, while I was with her and our relationship was developing, I was like, do you know what? I'm with somebody here who's going to be my life partner, I thought at the time, who's never met, who my dad never got to meet, and I found that really sad. And I was like, right, okay. So like lots of this stuff I was going through my head, but I just never did anything about it. And then we got married in 2012. Everything was lovely. And then 2013, I got made redundant from work. And so at the time, I was so like I say, I was a trader for this company, and so we were making money and all that. So we're making money for the company, and then they pay you money, which is lovely. And then it's like everyone wins, and it's great.
Days.
But it was long hours, sitting at a desk all day, every day. So from 2001 till 2013, I sat pretty much at the same desk. Maybe the one next to it or whatever, but in the same office at the same desk for 12 years.
Yeah.
Same people, just the same thing over and over again. And then the credit crisis crunch happened. The credit crisis happened 2007, 2008.
Yes.
Things were a little bit okay after that, but then it got really toxic because it was harder to make money for the company and for yourself. And it just became a toxic environment. And I hated it. I loved it when I was doing it in the beginning because it wasn't that hard. But then it became, and it wasn't because it was hard, but it just became like everyone was like the people within the same company were trading against each other and had different like opinions and views on what was going on. So it became quite toxic. And then eventually like they started getting rid of people because everyone was losing money at the time. And then so 2013, I was made redundant a year after I got married. And then after that, I was a bit lost because I was like, I don't want to go and find a job doing what I was doing because it had become toxic and it had put me right off it. But then I was like, I've got no identity because it didn't prepare. I was like, it doesn't prepare you for any other jobs or anything like that. I thought, what the hell do I do? And then, but at the time, I was deciding, how old was I then? 2013, what, 33, 34? Something like that. Anyway. And then I thought, well, actually, I want to get fit because I was out of shape. I'd been drinking loads and all that sort of stuff. And my dad had died at 65. I was like, I want to get fit because I don't want to go the same way as he did.
Yeah.
So that was when this part of my life started. It started then. And I did a PT course for myself. I thought I'll have 3 months off, do a PT course, and then I'll go and find a job. Because I had been paid out and all that sort of stuff. So I was like, financially secure. So I could do that.
Okay.
Then, and then I was like, do you know what? I'm enjoying this. And I joined a gym and I saw some of the PTs in there and I was like, they don't seem to be doing much. I could do better than that. So I decided, no, seriously, that's what I thought. I was like, well, they're just sticking people on treadmills and getting them to run. It's like, there must be more to it than that. And then I realized when I'd done the PT course that, that was the beginning. And then I started to get into the education of that because I hadn't really learned anything about myself or anything for, since I'd been through uni all the way through to then. So I'd got to like 33, 34, and I hadn't done any self development basically. And work used to talk about doing that, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's all about self development and your goals for this year at work and all that sort of stuff," because they have to do that. But they never really, they never followed up on it. And then the year later, they'd be like, oh, well done. The self-development stuff, whatever, but we've made this much money. So there you go. Wallop. Brilliant. Next year. And that it was just about making money, And I used to say, and I still do, I've learned more about myself in the last, 9 years since I got made redundant than I did in the whole time from when I was like 15 right up until for the 20 years before that. Yeah. So then I became a PT and then I've just been learning ever since. And then I learned very quickly with life experience and stuff like that, that it's not just about getting fitter. It's not about, eating well and all that. It's all about mindset and having to deal with what has got you to where you are. So I was out of shape. I wasn't very fit. I felt like I was old at 30, like early mid 30s. Felt like I was old, and I was like, right, I'm just going to get older from here. And also, I'd made a decent amount of money. I'd bought my flat. I was married. I had a nice car, drop top Mercedes, all that sort of stuff. And I was like, right, what's next? What do I do now? That's it. I'm done. Life's over. I'm done.
Peaked.
I'm 34. I've earned what I need to earn. I drive a nice car. I've got a beautiful wife. I didn't have any kids, but I wasn't interested in having kids, which is probably because of what was happening when I was younger.
Yes.
I don't know whether I believe that or not. I don't know, but yeah. So I'm rambling a bit now, but I like that was it, and I was like, what happens next? What do I do? But then I've been on this journey ever since then of just self-discovery, because I just find it fascinating about, you know, how you can get. I got to that point, and then when we got to, when my marriage happened, so my marriage broke down. I didn't get depressed. I've never been like depressed or anything like that, but I was obviously a bit sad.
Well, yeah,
and I had the thing in my chest. My marriage actually probably broke down a year before we split up. But you know, you've got to work at these things, right? That's what you're told. So
yeah,
a year before, I'd had not a breakdown, but I just had that, you know, when you sob and everything just comes out. You know, when like, if you've got that thing in your chest and it feels like someone's just tightening it and tightening it and tightening it, and yes. You're like, you just get wound up, and that burst. And everything came out when I had an argument with my ex-wife. And it really surprised her, actually. She just, like, we were having an argument. She was so angry. She was red in the face. That happened. I broke down, and she just, like, everything flipped and she changed. She was like, you all right? You know, and then at that point, I knew then, I was like, this is over. But I thought, you know, we'll see if we can make it work. And then a year later, it was over. And at that point, I was like, right, what do I do? Because I know that it was the same with the job as well. What people will do is then go and create the same relationship again with someone else.
Yes.
And hope that works and do exactly the same things. And then 10 years down the line, you're in your mid-40s and you're on your second divorce and what have you. So I was like, do you know what? I was like, I'm ready now. That's not going to be me. Who the hell am I?
Yeah.
And that was when it started. That is when my life started, as far as I'm concerned right now. It's
so my dog's just busted in the room.
That's all right. No, so anyway, that was where my life started, basically, I think. It's like another go at life. Because like I say, I was done. I was pretty much done. I was like, well, where do I go next? What happens? And it's quite funny because you can call it a midlife crisis or whatever you like. And I don't even know that that's a thing. It's just you get to a certain age, don't you? And go, right, what's it actually all about? what are we doing here?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think I can relate to that, and I know a lot of people, other people who friends of mine and people I've worked with can relate to that. When you kind of muddle along with life, doing your thing, and then something like, you know, being made redundant or, you know, whatever happens, and all of a sudden it changes, and divorce is a big change in life, and then you do take stock and go, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, totally. Especially, I mean, that all happened within, I got married, made redundant, complete career change, which was really scary because doing something that I've got no skills in, like, at all, which is not related to any degree that I've done or anything, which is also, it's quite it was like a newish industry as well. And there's lots of insecure people within it. Yeah. And then getting divorced.
Yes.
All happened within like a 3.5 year period. It's like, you know,
it's a lot in a short space of time.
When I think about it, I think, who am I? I thought about this about coming on here. Like I said, I told you, didn't I? I looked back through your thing and it was all people who've been in the RAF and people who've been in the Marines and PhDs and the late Tamsin, whose son had cancer and all. I was like, who the hell am I to come on here? But then when I thought about it, I was like, I've been through quite a lot, you know. Yeah. And Tamsin said it on that, on the, I know you said she's been on twice. I need to listen to the second one, but that first one, she said she was sitting there at that table. This really resonated with me, actually. She was sitting there at that table with the other people in the hospital when her son had cancer, and I can't remember the other ailments that that the people's kids had, but it was all people's kids. And they were all saying, your situation's way worse than mine because cancer's a nightmare. No, your situation's worse because imagine having to deal with what I can't remember what it was. You know what I mean? They all thought everyone was going through a worse situation than themselves.
Yeah.
Which is maybe a coping mechanism. I don't know. So I think, hang on, there's people been through a hell of a lot more than me. So who the hell am I to talk about this stuff? But then actually, the more I've thought about it, the more self-discovery I've done and everything, it's like everybody struggles with something.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter how big or small that struggle is, it's a struggle. It doesn't matter how big or small it is to anyone else. It's a huge struggle and it matters.
Yes. I'm looking for something here because I'm working on something at the moment that there it is. A bloody microphone in the way I can't see. That just it fits.
You're showing your professionalism there. You got a microphone and everything.
I know. Look, I'm not even lying.
Hey, that's why I keep mine in shot. You see, so everyone knows.
Right, because there's a quote I use that fits exactly what you're saying, and it's your subjective experience carries more power than your objective situation.
Yes.
Because, this is why there is no comparison between one person's life story and ups and downs and traumas and happy moments, etc. They're all so personal.
Yeah.
That you can't compare. It's impossible.
And that has been a huge lesson for me, especially if you go into coaching, because everyone's going to come to you. I mean, fitness is an interesting one actually, because people come to you to get fitter and lose weight or whatever, get healthier. But it's not usually. It's never. I say it's not usually. It's never about that. It's never about that, because the reason why they feel like they're not fit enough or strong enough or healthy enough is because of something else, something that they're putting in their own way, something in their head, some mindset problem, something that happened when they were a kid, something that's happening in their relationship, something that's happening somewhere that they're self-medicating by drinking too much or eating rubbish food or whatever. It's just, they know that's not what they know what to do.
Yeah.
And this is why, honestly, the fitness industry is hilarious. You see, I put posts up and stuff like that, and people go, well, you just eat less and move more. And it's like, brilliant, problem solved. There you go. That's why, everyone's, I hate saying everyone, but that's why there's more overweight people than there used to be and all that sort of stuff. It's just, it doesn't work like that, does it?
No, it doesn't.
It's not as simple as that. Let's face it.
No. Do you know, a big, having been in the military and been at the peak of fitness, equivalent to and probably at some points fitter than Olympic athletes, is the kind of the parallel that's drawn. And now, early 50s, I've had a year and a half of angina. I've put at least 2 stone on. I can't run like I used to. I can't exercise like I used to because I've got a fused shoulder. I've got limited use of my left arm. I'm waiting to get the bone cut out my thumb because it's arthritic and knackered. So strength work, upper body strength work is shot to bits. I've started doing a little bit of running again. Well, I call it a walk and hobble. But that, and this is something I'd like to go into with you, with perhaps with your clients, because you deal with 40s plus, don't you?
Yeah, guys, it's me. It's basically me.
Yeah,
I deal with me.
When dealing with
me 10 years ago, but it's guys in their 40s basically. I mean, I say that, and there's some women who come along and stuff like that, but it's mainly guys in their 40s.
But it's dealing with how the life's curveballs physically, and how it's taken me a long time to adjust in my head that I can't do what I used to do. Yeah. And that's been quite a painful process. Excuse me, I'm going to open the door. Bloody dog is panting like a sodding steam train.
I can't hear it, by the way, so it's okay. But no, it's funny because you say that, because you've been at a pinnacle, and there's no, the only way down from a peak is well, not the only way. There's two ways down, isn't it? You can walk back down, or you can fall off it.
Yeah.
And that's a Mark Rifkind quote, by the way. Just because you should always, I didn't make that up, and that's he said that. But anyway, yeah, it's again, like you say, you can't compare, because so for someone like me, I'm fitter now than I've ever been in my mid-40s. But that's because I was never fit when I was younger. I was never sporty. I was never on any teams, anything like that. I never did anything. I went out for a run when I was at university with a couple of my mates. A couple of them were on the football team and stuff. I went out for a run, got to the end of the street, and I nearly passed out. And I just went home, and that was it. Because I was so out of shape, it was unbelievable. Have you ever seen Run Fat Boy Run? When
yes,
what's his name? Simon Pegg. He goes out and he's ready, and he runs down. He starts, and then he just within about 3 seconds he's knackered. That was me.
Yeah.
So I look at it now as like, I'm never going to have the potential I did when I was younger, but I'm fitter now than I've ever been. Whereas you'd be like, and I haven't got a fused shoulder and a knackered thumb and all of that sort of stuff. But you've been at the pinnacle, say, and then, there's, as long as you're coming down slowly. And there's another thing that Dan John says as well, and this is interesting. He's a 65-year-old strength coach.
Yeah. And
he says, we're all going to decline. We're all going to decline.
Absolutely.
That's just how it goes. But what you can do is you can slow that down. You can slow that decline down. And if you do something about it now, no matter how old you are, it means in 10, 20 years' time, you're not going to be the person who you would have been if you didn't do anything about it now.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I say a lot. What does it look like in 20 years? The decisions you make today, what do they look like in 20 years' time? And that resonates with me so much now, because my dad was 20 years older than me at this moment when he died.
Yes.
So it made that, honestly, I thought about that a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, wow, right, that really makes a difference now.
Yeah.
In my head. And we were talking earlier about the why of why you do stuff. And you see this a lot online and stuff like that as well, don't you? With people saying, I want to get fitter, I want to get stronger. And then like a coach will come online and go, yeah, but you need to find your why. Why do you want to do that? We were speaking about this before. Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do it? And keep asking why. And they go, well, I want to lose some weight. Why? Because my clothes don't fit me anymore. Okay, why does that matter? Well, because I want to play football with the kids in the park, and I can't keep up with them, and I get tired and have to sit and watch, which makes me sad. And it's like, okay, why does that matter? Well, because then I'll go home and eat more and all of that, and there's a cycle and all that. It's like, why does that matter? And then it becomes, but that's all still quite superficial stuff. And we were talking about this, and my why is it basically unhealthy habits. And the mindset stuff as well. So probably a lot of mindset stuff with my dad from having to look after my mum and not knowing how to. And that really, he probably felt guilty about it and all this. I don't know this, but this is how I think about it. And this is how I think I saw it at the time. He felt guilty. So he used to just self-medicate.
Yeah.
And that's what killed him. And, that's a decent why. But then when I think about it, the deeper why is because of what happened to my mum when she was younger. And that affects, this is one of the things I want to kind of drive home as well. I haven't got any kids, and that's probably why. I think that's why. I don't know for sure, but I was never interested in having kids. My brother hasn't got any kids either. There's my mum has 0 grandkids. She's got 3 grand cats. Actually, 2. One of them died last night, actually, unfortunately.
Oh shit.
I shouldn't laugh. But yeah, anyway. One of them died last night, coincidentally, and she's got a grand dog called Sid, my spaniel called Sid. And that's it. Right. So, and I think that is because I wasn't able to process what happened to her
Yeah.
No, it didn't even happen to me. And I was talking to Kirsten Tulloch about this earlier. It didn't even happen to me. And she's like, yeah, but it doesn't matter if it happens to you or not. It's still a trauma in your immediate kind of family and how you were brought up, and your mindset comes from your parents' mindset and what have you.
It goes deeper than that. There is a thing called transgenerational trauma.
Yes.
Where a pregnant mother, what's going on in her system from the trauma that she's experienced that's going through her entire body is passed through to the fetus and is kind of hereditary in a roundabout kind of way, is passed on. That trauma is ingrained and passed on to the baby.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting, then. I didn't know.
Yeah. So you have a look at transgenerational trauma.
I'm going to write that down. This isn't very exciting for the listeners, isn't it?
Well, I don't know.
I mean me writing it down. It's like,
were you writing it down?
Yeah.
Well, no, maybe they are as well. So maybe you've spurred a few people on to make note as well.
No, that is interesting, because you see, I think there's going to be a lot. Well, everyone out there will have something that they don't know. They'll have habits. What do you call? How would you say? You'll have habits. You'll have behaviors.
Yeah,
all of that stuff that you just can't explain. You do it, and you know you shouldn't, but you do it anyway, and you can't explain it, and you can't. And then you feel guilty about it, and it's self-fulfilling, and it's a horrible. It always feels like it's a horrible thing to say, and this is why people don't talk about it as well. I think is because it's kind of like you know it's your fault, but you don't want to be told it's your fault, because the person who tells you, especially if it's someone like me or you on a podcast or whatever, it's someone online, you're just going to go, I hate that person. Then you're going to go and comment and tell them to piss off, and then block them or whatever. If it's a friend that tells you, you might think, I know they're trying to help. Yeah. But then you can only help yourself and all that sort of stuff. So I'm sorry, I've lost my train of thought there, but it's everybody has something like this. And it's taken me a long time talking to a lot of people, having a lot of coaches, talking to people like yourself as well, doing the podcast and talking to people on there and here and there, their experiences, talking to my guys who I train in the park, listening to their experiences.
Yeah.
I've got a guy at the minute, his dad's got dementia, and he's had an addiction his whole life, basically. Not to drugs or anything like that, to buying stuff. He buys crap, right? And he keeps it out of the family budget, doesn't tell his wife about it. So he gets in debt, and then he has to pay the debt off.
Okay.
And it's not going to bankrupt him or anything like that, but it's a lie that he's not telling anybody, and he's not telling his wife, who's the closest person to him, right? And all that. And then she finds out, and then they try and help sort it out, but now he's seeing somebody about that to do something about it, because he's ready. He told all of us, we were down there at 7 a.m. in the park training and lifting weights and stuff like that, and he told us all about it. He hadn't been for like 2 weeks, and I was texting him, are you okay? Nothing came back, so I was just leaving it, and I thought, when he's ready, he'll come back. 2 weeks later, he came back, told everybody about it, and everyone went, yeah, we've all done that. Seriously.
Yeah. One
of the guys was talking about the amount of Batman memorabilia he had in an office in his house or something like that, and he was like, because I don't even really like Batman. Like, why have I got all this stuff? And it was hilarious. So we're all like, we've all done that. I mean, I've got. Yeah. Look at the amount of Rubik cubes I've got there. There's a plate there as well. You're seeing into my lifestyle here, but that's an addiction. You know what I mean? So it everybody's got this, and it shows up in a way that you can't explain, and it might show up in something like that, just buying stuff, and it's like, well, what's wrong with that? As long as you can afford it, what's wrong with it? And it's like, yeah, but it's a plaster, isn't it? Put a plaster on something.
Yes. Well, You know what? We're creatures of habit. Our brains like to simplify our lives and take shortcuts and refine things to the simplest form. So we're creatures of habit. So 95% of every day is driven through habitual behaviors.
Yeah.
Habitual thinking, habitual language use, habitual actions and behaviors. That's what we do because we like to make life easy.
Yeah.
And because we don't have to think about it, this is where lots of, in many ways, coaching won't work for a lot of things like this, because it's coming at it at the wrong level. It's too surface level. You need to actually get in to the unconscious level and access those things there and make changes there, rather than trying to, because in some way it kind of sets people up. People are setting themselves up for failure by looking for a solution to a problem at the wrong level.
Yeah. So I've learned about this in lots of different ways. I was actually learning about this very morning, which I told you about as well. And it's, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Trying to change behavior doesn't come from willpower or changing the way you think or anything like that, because you're going to think anyway. You can change that, can't you? But an example that was on the thing I was looking at this morning was meditation, and people would go, well, just meditate and then it's fine. It's like, yeah, but that's still at a surface level. You're not changing anything. But you're letting your thoughts pass, and you're not paying them any attention. It's like, yeah, while you're meditating, you're doing that, and that's fine. But what happens when you're in the world and things are going on around you and you haven't got time to process anything and all that? You just do things automatically. And I've been thinking about this a lot as well, because one of my old coaches had me meditating, which is nothing wrong with, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with meditation, and I actually enjoyed it. But now, instead of meditating, I take the dog for a walk, and we'll go out for a couple of hours, and I watch him running around, and he's not got a care in the world. He just goes and sniffs stuff, swims in stuff, does this. Yep. And I'm like, that's a flow. The word, yes. that word flow as well. I love that. He's just flowing around, doing whatever he does. And what I love about that is we leave the front door and he's excited and he's got no idea where we're going and he's got no idea how long we're going for. I could walk straight back in the house with him and then he's like, oh, right, we're done. But we're done and we'll go out for a walk, and he just enjoys it to the max.
Yes.
And we can be out. So we've just got back from the lakes in Snowdonia. We're walking up and down mountains, and we were knackered, and he's still going. But then he's still going. He's on one. He's a spaniel, so he's just on one. And as soon as you get in the house, and you've been out for. Have you got a spaniel as well? Have you? Ah, brilliant. They're great. But anyway, as soon as we get back in the front door, so he's still running around. We get back in the front door, been out for 3 or 4 hours, say. He'll go and he'll either get in his basket or we'll let him on the sofa because we do. Yes. And he'll just go to sleep.
Yeah.
And it's like, because what he's then doing is recharging, because he's like, at any point now I could be getting up and going out again. And he just doesn't know what's going to happen next. And that I absolutely, I mean, obviously you can't live like that. But if you can experience that on a daily basis, it's just fantastic. And, and that's what happens when we go out for a walk. I might know where we're going. I might not. I might just go, do you know what? I feel like going here today because it's flat and I can't be bothered walking up anything. Or, because I live in Bath and there's hills. The only way out of here is hills.
Yes.
So, and I just find that fascinating, and I love watching him. And that, to me, that is my meditation. And it just switches my brain off, and I love it. And then I get home and I just feel energetic, and I feel like I've been able to think creatively rather than just think about like things that have to be done. I can think creatively, and it just, I don't know, it just calms my brain down.
Yes, I having come from a military background, and planning is a big part of it, but the plan always goes to shit anyway.
Yeah.
So it's more important to have to coin a Clint Eastwood phrase from the hell's the movie? I just had a complete mind fart.
Tell us the phrase and I might be able to tell you the movie.
Improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Don't know.
Heartbreak Ridge.
Oh, it's Heartbreak Ridge. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Gunny Highway, wasn't it?
Gunny Highway, yeah.
That's the one. Yes. Great movie.
So it's about that is have a loose plan, know where you want, what it is you want to achieve, but how the fuck you're going to get there, don't worry about it, because as long as you can improvise, adapt, and overcome, you'll get it.
Absolutely. This is what I was going to, I went off on one about going out for a walk about the dog, but this is what I was going to talk about it's, I think, is it Seth Godin, the book? It's called The Gap.
Okay, yeah.
But I learned it from a coach I had in the past. It was called The Drift. He called it. But basically, you've got where you are now, where you want to be. That's your goal. And you start out on your path from where you are now, and you go, everything's fine. This is great. I'm a trainer, so I'm doing my training program, and everything's fine. But then a life event happens, something happens, and you just go bang straight into a ditch. You're at the bottom of that ditch. And then it's like, how do I get out of there? Because from the bottom of that ditch to your goal is now bigger. It's massive. So then you have all these future-based thoughts of how do I get there, and anxiety and kind of, I'm never going to be able to do this and all that sort of stuff. Like all these, which are all future-based thoughts, rather than thinking about what do I need to do right here, right now to keep me on, at least keep me going towards that.
Yeah.
But then what you get is you just, this is what you start with my dad every Monday. And then you go, I'm just going to go back to where I was because it was comfortable.
Yeah.
And you end up in the same place, and that can be over. And when I talk to people about this, I'm like, it can happen over a week, a year, 2 years, 25 years, which it did for me from when I was 15 to 39 or whatever. What did I say it was? I was 39 after I got divorced. So I was saying 33, 34 earlier. That was when I got made redundant and everything. So by the time I got to 39, that was when I met Sean, who I'm with.
Yes.
We met online, which was totally uncomfortable for me as well. I went on Match.com. Honestly, it was bonkers. My mate said, go on Match.com. And I was like, oh, no. Why would you do that? Only sad people do that and all that sort of stuff. I don't know what I was thinking. Went on, and I've met a beautiful lady who I now live with. We've got a dog. And it's amazing. And we have a great relationship because she's been through very similar to me and being divorced.
Yeah.
We talk about this actually. She was married, but never had a, what's it called? Anniversary. Because she was only married for 8 months.
Oh.
Yeah. But we've had similar experiences through that. So now we talk about everything. We just talk about it.
Yeah.
This is how I'm feeling. This is, and we don't go through like, this is what you do that annoys me, because people talk about like doing that, and it's like, no, because then you're just you're focusing on the wrong thing. But we're just like, sometimes I'll just be sitting there and I'll be like, do you know what? This happened at the beginning of this year because I lost a few clients and it felt like everyone was going to leave and all of this sort of stuff. And I was like, I might have to get a job, Not that I haven't got a job now, but I was like, this might all fall apart and I might have to do something. And then the very next day she said to me, she was like, I've already been thinking about because she's a teacher. She's like, well, what about tutoring? And because I've got a maths degree, so what about tutoring? She was like, there's admin stuff that needs doing at work, which can be done remotely. She's like, you could do that until you find something and all this. Not saying it is going to fail. It's like, we've got contingencies. And she was like, she was there. Yeah. And it was brilliant. And that was just from this one thing of telling her how I felt, what was I going to say? And I would never, until this point, I would never have done that. I would have just hid it and been like, what's wrong with you? I'm nothing. I'm fine. And then just sat there being in a mood, probably had a few beers. No, you know what I mean? You know how it works though, Yeah. But then that all of a sudden I was like, she's got my back. I'll be fine. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anything wrong. And I'm still doing what I do because everyone didn't leave.
Yes. Yeah, it's but it's interesting you talk, because we talked about this when I came on your Health Oddity podcast. The people's comfort zones of discomfort, because it's familiar, and sticking with the old routine, even though you know it's screwing you up, but you stick with it because that's what you know. The better the devil you know scenario.
Yeah.
And it gets tied into your identity, and it's hard to shift out of that because it feels really scary.
Yeah. Identity is huge, actually. Again, I was learning about that this morning. It sounds like I've learned about everything just this morning, doesn't it? But
big day.
I've had a productive day. Yeah? No, but this morning I was learning about that. So identity, and again, this goes with people who want to get fitter, stronger, losing weight, whatever. They can have the identity of I'm a fat person. I always have been. I have been my whole life. So what would I do if I got in shape? Who do I become? What happens? And that's scary. That is really scary. I put something up this morning about what is your idea, like, what do you think about yourself? I can't remember exactly what I wrote, but it was like, I was never strong. I used to be weak. That was my identity. I was weak, but I was clever, or I thought I was. And it turns out I wasn't clever. I could just regurgitate information, which isn't really intelligence, is it? I suppose. I don't know.
But anyway, bloody useful.
Well, yeah, but no, but it is. Unless you can understand it. If you can regurgitate stuff, that's easy. But unless you can understand it, if you can actually understand it, then you're okay, aren't you? But I can't remember entirely what it was. But it was like I was weak. That's how I identified. So then I was like, well, what's the point of me going? And I even thought that when I started going to the gym, which I hated at the time, and until I had coaches who were basically like, no, you that's not your identity. You've accepted you are this person, but you can change that, and you can change that.
Yes.
And then it doesn't happen overnight, obviously, but then you become to accept that anything is possible. There are no limits to anything. And then once you can get to that point, you're like, well, I can do anything. I can do whatever I want. Whatever I want. It might work, it might not work, but it doesn't matter. And that was a massive realization, because I sat at the same desk for 12 years, and I was like, I've got to go to work and go home, go to work and go home, get pissed at the weekend. Yeah. And that happened. Have 2 weeks off and go on holiday. First week, I'll be knackered. Second week, and then probably get ill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Usually the way.
Yeah, yeah. And then second week, I'll be a bit more relaxed until the Wednesday. And then I start thinking about the fact that I've got to go back to work again. And then it just goes on and on.
Yeah. Yes.
So the whole, that identity thing is huge.
Yeah.
Because you are not, how you identify yourself now isn't who you have to be, it isn't who you have to be. Unless you want it to be. If you want it to be, there's nothing wrong with it, is there?
Well, no, exactly. No, it's
But the way I also think about that now is, you can have an idea. If you're not happy with who you are now, you can have there's ways of changing that.
Yes.
To become who you do want to be. But that'll not make you happy forever. And then when you are that person, what's next? It's like there's always got to be a progression from there, because it's like, well, what's next? Because that person in 5 years' time, who you were happy with 5 years ago, but not 10 years ago, because you were someone else, you become that person. And then 5 years later, you're still that person. You'd be like, right. And then it becomes comfortable. And then you're like, right, I need a challenge, which is, I'm going through that right now, because I haven't let things slide, but because I was I'd started a relationship with Sean. That was actually 6 years ago, but I wanted to make sure it didn't go the same way as I alluded to earlier. It didn't go the same way as it did with my ex-wife.
Yes.
Which I could have quite easily created that situation, but I didn't let everything else slide. But I haven't been learning as much about the mental stuff, the mental, what do you call it, mindset side and all that. I'm not going to say mental health, because I'm not a mental health professional am I? But the mindset side of it and all that, I kind of let that all slip because I was like, I want to focus on my relationship. That is the thing that I'm going to make work. And I've focused on that a hell of a lot, where now I can kind of, it's probably gone on too long, but I was comfortable doing that. And I've got to a point now, I'm like, right, hang on. I can't do that forever because it's actually a very good relationship. Now I need to worry about other stuff that is now, I've taken the foot off the gas and people were leaving and things like that. So I'm like, right now I've got to go and learn that. But actually that'll feed back into it anyway.
Yeah, because without the right mindset, you can't even set foot in the gym. I've had that over the last 18 months.
Yeah.
It's getting fat because I've been afraid to exercise because my heart problems have been causing me significant issues. Here's a strange thing, and this occurred to me a couple of weeks ago, and I've been doing something deliberate to change that. Is I actually, when I found out about I had an unstable angina, I kind of then, because I was getting pains, and it was obviously exercise induced as well, but it was waking me up in the night. I actually kind of dissociated my heart from me, or me from my heart, because I kind of seeing it as the enemy.
Yeah.
And over the last couple of weeks, I've spent a lot of time, I do my little morning routine, but I've been focusing my efforts in my kind of hypnotic visualization of reconnecting with my heart and becoming friends with it and say, listen, we need to work. Sorry about that, dude. We need to work together here. Otherwise we're both fucked.
It's I was going to say,
reconnecting with myself, and it's been making a difference.
Huge. It's not a thing you want to disconnect from, is it? Let's face it.
Not really. No.
Yeah, that's interesting actually, because there's something I did a while ago and I didn't follow it through. As in, I finished it, but I didn't follow it through. And it was a course called PDTR. I can't remember what it stands for now. Anyway, but it's kind of like physios, chiropractors, and it's like physical therapy.
Okay.
My mindset got in the way of that because I'm not a physical therapist, and I thought, who the hell am I to be able to do this? And I didn't. I got my head around it. I understood it, but I didn't feel like I could do it, if you know what I mean, on people, because you meant to do it on other people and all that. But it went all into what you've just said there about how your emotion around, I don't know, like even just breaking your arm or something like that, and then you're in pain after that, but the pain continues even though the tissue damage is fixed and all of that. So there shouldn't be any pain there, but your brain is saying there is pain there because it's protecting that area. Yeah. You've then got to convince your brain, your central nervous system, that everything's okay because it's being overprotective, which you can do through physical therapy. But then a memory of the accident you went through, the trauma, how you broke your arm or whatever it is, can then bring that pain back. So you got to deal with that. And like, that's exactly what you were talking about dealing with things on a surface level or going deeper than that.
Yes. To
the actual unconscious place that makes that happen.
Yes.
And that happens with pain, happens with depression. It happens with everything, because it all comes from the brain.
Yeah.
That's just made me think about that actually. And that's, I just find that really interesting. You've just, so this is another thing that's interesting. That's a physical thing. And you've dealt with it mentally as well, because it is mental as well. So it's all connected, isn't it? And that's your experience through through your doctorate and all of that sort of stuff that you've done, of being able to do that, and being able to recognize that as well. It's amazing.
Yes, when I first got the angina symptoms, the first angina attack was, I can't even remember when it was. It was either January or February last year. But on the Monday, I'd run a 20 miler because I was training for a challenge, an endurance challenge. And then on the Tuesday, it was basically on the Wednesday morning at like 3 a.m, I woke up with horrendous chest pain, like and sweating and nausea, all the shit that goes with that.
Yeah.
So I'd been doing a 20 miler, and I haven't really run since then. I stopped. Bang. That was it.
Yeah.
Because I shat myself. But yesterday I ran 7K.
Yeah. So does that mean that somewhere in here, somewhere in your head, unconsciously, it was running that caused your angina? Is that right or not? I don't know. I don't know.
Possibly. There were a lot of other things. It had been a problematic. Well, I've been working my ass off getting the charity, the mental health charity, set up and running and going and doing lots of work with that, and then that became there were some problems towards the end of that, and that was ultimately what led. I think it was definitely emotional stress induced.
But somewhere in your subconscious, do you think it's now being overprotective, saying it was
very probably because
because the very next day after doing that, it linked it to that, and somewhere in the what would you call it? Not doldrums, way in the back, it's thinking that. I don't know if that's true or not, but it just. I know from my experience that can happen where there's a trigger, or you think it's a trigger and it's not. It's something you've been doing for 10 years up until that point.
Yeah, it's just a habit. Emotional memory is extremely powerful as well.
Huge.
And it can be completely. You can have a sense of feelings triggered by something that's completely disconnected from the original event. It's just the fact that it's brought up a similar feeling. So your brain just connects the two and go, when I feel like that, this is what it means. And it can trigger all sorts of stuff. It's a bizarre old thing.
But again, with this PDTR thing that I did, it can be sound as well. It can be anything, sound, smell.
Sound, yeah, absolutely. Sound,
that
smell.
Then creates the thought, which then creates the feeling and then brings everything back again. What I love and hate about all of this stuff is that you think you got your head around it. And then you haven't. Because there's just, honestly, people who deal with neurology and, all the research science and all that behind and everything, it's just so ongoing. It is unbelievable, which is why when anyone tells you they've got a solution to your problem of whatever it is, and you just follow these steps and do this. I know you've got your ultimate care process and that, but that isn't like this solves everything. It's like, this is a framework.
God, no.
This is no, but like it's a framework, and you use it how it works for you, because it's different for everybody and all of that sort of stuff. But when you see it in like I say on Instagram, Facebook, I'll just do this, or just eat less and run more and all that. It's like, it's just like, do you know how it's not even superficial? I don't know what the word is. It's less than superficial. You know what I mean? That it's bonkers. And it fascinates me because it just makes me, this is what, I don't know. This is what excites me. And it also means I don't know where I'm going to go next. I don't know if I'm going to be a trainer for the rest of my life. I don't know. I don't know. And I love that, because you can be anything. You can be, and this is what my post said earlier about how you identify. You can be whoever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do. And it's taken me, I'm 45 now, and it's taken me to this point to kind of not even realize it, just become comfortable with it. Because I was very, I did your free online course, didn't I? And the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and what have you. And about being, I was at the very bottom of that, and I had the comfort and the, I can't remember exactly what it was, but the financial security and all of that. And I was in a relationship and everything was okay. And it didn't go any higher than that. And that's where I was going to stay, whereas now it's the enlightenment side of it. And it's kind of, you can just do whatever you want.
Yes.
Because the funny thing is, being able to do that, the skills you learn along the way as well. So after being at work for all that time, coming out, I was like, I've not quite, what else can I do apart from go and find a job in another company doing exactly the same thing?
Yeah.
I can't. We were talking about this in the pub the other day, actually, with about the miners, when Thatcher closed all the mines and all that sort of stuff, and they were like, "Well, what the hell do I do now?" And it's like, exactly, all your eggs are in one basket. You're a miner. That's it. You don't know what else to do, And that was how it was at the time, and it wasn't really their fault and stuff, because it was, it was a job for life, wasn't it? Until it's not.
Yeah.
So all the things you learn outside of that, so I could now do whatever I want, and then if everything goes to shit, I could just go and get a job. So,
yeah.
And I even thought about that down to the nth degree of, well, someone will, like, if you go to a job and they go, well, where have you been for the last 10 years? You haven't been employed. And it'd be like, I've been doing all this stuff and I've got all this experience and all that. So what do you want to do? Employ someone who's been churning the handle, or employ someone who's thought about a lot of stuff over life and will come at you with, with thoughts and things to progress.
Yes, I think very often people that I see this very often is people in their 40s getting into coaching and that side, the kind of the more psychological side of life and spiritual.
Yeah,
in their 40s, because they've had the life experience to and they've learned that there is more to life.
Yeah.
And there's more options, and there's better ways of doing things and living your own life rather than living your life for somebody else's benefit.
Sean, so my girlfriend is a great example of, when I think about this, I talk about her a lot, actually, and because I find her very inspirational. Because she's a teacher, she's a primary school teacher, which is not. She's been her parents were teachers before her.
Okay.
So it's ingrained in her, and she loves it. She's been doing it for 20 years. Okay, she doesn't teach kids anymore. She's in school improvement. Okay, so like phonics and stuff like that, and everything she does, everything, and she talks about this all the time, everything she does is with the kids in mind and how the kids are going to benefit from it. She doesn't care how it affects her, how busy she's going to be, or anything. Everything is about that. And she loves it. She moans about it a lot and gets stressed and all of that sort of stuff. But she absolutely loves it. And she's been doing it for 20 years. So I always find it funny when people go like, oh, people are stuck in jobs that they hate, blah, 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 blah. If you're stuck in a job, not stuck in a job, but if you're doing a job you like, you don't have to go out and do anything on your own, do it for yourself and all that. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're happy to sit behind a desk for 10 hours and all that, and over the weekend and all that, there's absolutely bugger all wrong with it. But if you're not, and you're not doing anything about it, there's one person who's got to deal with that, and that's you. And honestly, and this is what's inspired me to do what I want as well, which I was doing anyway, but it gives me more drive to do it, because she has done it for 20 years and she's just happy.
Yes.
And it's brilliant. And I'd like to think I've got a little part in why she's happy as well, to be honest. But,
Well, yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And her ex-husband's actually a teacher as well. So, they obviously, you'd think that would be a match made in heaven, wouldn't you? It's like, oh, they can sit and it's all about the kids and talk about school and that. But apparently, I don't know him, but he was, it wasn't always necessarily about the kids and stuff for him. You know what I mean? So I just love that. I love it. So finding I don't know if passion's the right word, because it gets all these words that we use for things like this have been used to death. So
yes,
when you say, when I say she's got a passion for this thing, I don't think that carries the weight that I want to get, that I can't, not that I want to get across, but that I think that she's got. It's just, I think these things get used too much, but she has got that passion for it, and I love it.
Yeah, well, to find something that you can do for that long that still lights that fire in your belly, I think is phenomenal. There's not many. It's a rarity these days, because that period of working in a company for 30, 40, 50 years, leaving with a handshake and a gold watch, just doesn't exist anymore, does it? That's.
I got a pipe for my 10-year.
A pipe.
Yeah, I don't know why. I didn't even smoke. I used to, but I didn't and I've never smoked a pipe. I got a pipe, the certificate. Oh, you've been here 10 years. There you go. Anyway, crack on.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Cheers for that. Yeah. That's fucking bizarre.
Yeah. It's amazing though, but like I say, she's doing that for the kids, and I've literally, I haven't just thought about this. I think about it a lot, but this has just popped in my head, and this is why when I'm training the guys who I train people online as well, and I train people in person in the park behind my house. I'm not in a gym or anything like that because most people. When I started, it was like people working in offices. Now most people are at home most of the day, aren't they? After COVID and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, why would you want to go to a gym with no windows and what have you, when you can come in, like Royal Victoria Park's just there. The Royal Crescent, one of the 1,001 things you should see before you die is behind my house. So, it's an amazing venue for people to just get strong and relax and all that.
Yep.
But I like to think, and I don't do weekends, only during the week, because it's mainly guys in their 40s. What do you do at weekends? You spend it with your kids. Yeah. So I want to think that ripples down. So as Sean does with school, it'll ripple through the kids. Kids are better at home, all of that sort of stuff. It'll ripple down to the kids, to the relationships, to everything. Whether it does or not, I don't know. But it doesn't matter if I know or not. And it doesn't matter if it does or not. I'm going to keep doing it. Because if I can think like that, I'm just going to keep doing it. And it's I don't know. It just makes me feel good.
Well, you're helping people to make their lives better.
Yeah. And sometimes I struggle with that, because I'm like, who the hell am I to tell you to do that?
Well, again, you said earlier, it's not about coming up with the answers, the solutions. It's helping people figure out along the way what works for them.
Yeah.
Because there's always one way to skin the proverbial cat. Obviously, a sensitive.
I was going to say
phrase in your house.
I can't think. It's not my house, in my brother's house, but I can't think of another another one doesn't spring to mind straight away.
No, it was the first one that came to mind. Yeah. And I was thinking shit.
What you've done. There you go. You've just proved there the old unconscious thing. Whatever you call it, you have an unconscious thought, and then the feeling comes from it, and blah blah. You started a sentence, and then halfway through the sentence, you're like, "Oh, hang on, I need another sentence."
Yeah,
I love that. That's the gap. I was learning that this morning as well. The gap from your unconscious thought to your action. There's like a 6-second gap or something like that. Your unconscious thought comes in, and then your behavior will do something. You'll do something based on that thought. And if you can own that, this is what this guy Brian, who I was listening to this morning, says. If you can own that gap, you can change. That's where the change comes from.
Yes, because sometimes you can, sometimes you can't.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't there.
I clearly did not on that occasion. No.
Oh, brilliant! Oh, fantastic.
I'm curious with your kind of. You got to that crux point.
Yes.
That really got that just transformed your life, because you made a conscious decision. I need to change things here. There's some things I need to do for myself. And it's obviously had a dramatic impact on your life from then to now. What are the key things? Are there any key elements from that kind of awareness, I suppose, of what you need to change and what you have changed and what you've learnt, that you carry with you now? Your kind of key things this consistently works for me in changing things. What is it? What are those things that are right for you that you've found that continue to drive you on in the right direction?
Yeah, there's I'm trying to think how to say this, but it's basically just looking after me and not being selfish. But the whole thing about, I mean, again, it's a cliche, but putting your own mask on a plane before you help everyone else and all of that. I used to be a yes man person. I used to say yes to everything and try and help everyone and do this and do that, but end up helping no one. And my dad was exactly the same person. And then you get annoyed with that as well. Yeah. Right. So he was always trying to help someone and all that. I remember at his funeral, it was weird. There was a load of people walking out and shaking my hand, going, "Oh, I've got a plant in the garden that your dad gave me, and I've got this." He loved his gardening, which didn't rub off on me. But it was like, "Oh yeah, he gave us a cutting off one of his things, and that's now in the garden," and blah blah and all that. So I kind of like to think loads of people have got gardens all over Newcastle that my dad is part of. But anyway,
nice.
But that was what he was constantly doing, and trying to help other people, including my mum. But he'd always get angry about it because he never had any time for himself. And he was like, "Well, what about who?" It was kind of like because he could never get with who he was.
Yes,
and that's a huge thing for me. So I've had this influence has been running through my life all the time, and I didn't realize it. So it's that thing of and this is a big thing right now, like now, because there's so much going on. There's so much things to get your attention that you get to go to bed at night and you're like, what has happened today? What has happened? So then telling people to say you need to work out who you are and how to change it and either accept who you are or there's something you can do about it and it doesn't have to be ingrained and all of that sort of stuff is way beyond what most people can actually deal with because they don't know who they are because they are what they do day after day after day. They get out of bed as late as possible, jump in the shower, drive to work, get stuck in traffic, get annoyed, get to work annoyed, do 2 hours work in 8 hours, fanny about for the rest of it, go home, have a beer, watch telly, go to bed. And that's a bleak picture. And I don't think, life's not like that. That's a bit of it's like exaggerated.
Yes.
But that's how I felt. And now that I think I protect my time a lot more, I don't work very many hours, but I get a shitload more done than I used to at work, which gives me time to go out and walk the dog for 2 hours. So he then doesn't get on my nerves because he's in the house going, "Oh, what we're doing," and he goes to sleep, like I said earlier. So I definitely think it's not selfish to give yourself some time because then it gives more of you to everybody else as well. Because it's not just about you. We all live together. We're all on, the whole planet becoming existential and all that sort of stuff. But we're all part of the same thing, right? For me now, I just want to put good out into the world. And if I don't know who I am, and I don't know what I want, and I don't think about that, and try and think about it as deeply as I am able to, then I might not be doing it right, but I might not be putting good out in the world. Like you get angry at someone on the street, you have a go at them, they go home and take it out on the missus. There might be a person who does that, or take it out on the missus or the kids or whatever. Or they might go and get drunk because you've given them a bad day, and then get in a fight with someone. You know what I mean? Is it like all these things can happen? So it's like I just want to try and not be that person who creates that. And it's a struggle. It's a massive struggle, but it's a good struggle because it makes me keep thinking about it and keep thinking, right, what was my reaction to that? What did I do? So I'm just trying to. I don't even know if I'm answering your question, but it's. I don't know. I just the more I think about things, and the more I think about what. We were talking about you get to a certain age and you start thinking about what's it all about. That's what it's all about for me. Just making sure, not making sure you don't piss people off and you don't do this, but just being mindful about what you say. Because everyone's got trauma somewhere, and you could say something that triggers them like that, and then you that's them done for a month or 2 months or whatever. They could go to bed for 3 weeks and not not get up, and I try and be mindful of that.
Yeah.
But that comes from working on myself.
Yes. Yeah, because otherwise we just run on the same old habits rather than
Yeah. And and I've done that, and I never used to say things to piss people off, but you get that, don't you? Like, or I used to, it was like, someone's doing something like slightly annoy you or something, so you're like, right, I'm going to wind them up. And not in a joking way, like I'm going to say something that's going to just floor them.
Yeah.
And then I win, but nobody wins.
No.
So,
No, there's lot. Yeah, Christ, we're all guilty of doing things like that. Especially when we're having a bad day ourselves. We can.
Yeah. If I'm going to feel bad, I'm going to make you feel bad as well.
Yeah, you just piss me off. I'm just going to make you worse. Make you feel
but
worse.
if you can flip that.
Yes.
If you can flip that and say, if I'm going to feel bad, that's on me. What can I do to get out of that? Or what can I do to whatever it is that's triggered me to be like that? Because there will be a trigger, whatever it is that's triggered me. How do I work on that? Is it because I'm tired? Maybe I just need some more sleep. This is another thing. This is a big thing, actually. Hopefully, in answer to your question, is whenever I'm feeling something, or whenever I'm tired, or whenever like I'm short-tempered or whatever, I try and work out what I've done that day or the day before or whatever within the immediate time. So not something like weeks ago or anything like that, but the immediate time that's made me feel like that now, because it's like there must be something. And then if you can find that, you can nip it in the bud, rather than having something that was someone said to you 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
That you've remembered has popped up and then put you in a bad mood. If you can deal with it there and then and go, well, this person said this to me, it's pissed me off. Why is that? And you can figure it out. You might know about this, I don't know, but there's a book by Byron Katie called Loving What Is.
Yes.
Have you ever read that? And it's kind of, it's that, I went through doing that a lot. There's a whole process to it, the work, she calls it. And it got tedious for me. And you can't really just do it in your head and go like, oh, this person said this to me, it pissed me off, so I'll go through that process. But I just try and find exactly what the thing is, and then I'm like, right, I need to resolve that now, because I'm going to end up having an argument with Sean in like 6 months 6 months time, and I won't have a clue what's going on. What happened there? So that's what I try and do to because then things don't fester. So this, and then going right back to where we started, that thing that when my dad told me when I was 15 about my mum, that took me 25 years to, 25 years of getting angry, getting annoyed, drinking, before I actually decided to do something about it. And 25 years is a long time to try and unravel stuff.
It is.
And I'm still doing it, so it's
well, you're in fine company, mate. You really are. Yeah, and there's
but that's the other thing when you talk about it, it's not unique. You might get people who go like, oh, just, I don't know what to say about that. And it's like, you don't have to say anything. You just have to identify something in yourself that is similar or that could have happened or whatever that you can deal with. And then if you have a conversation, then conversations open up, and then you end up talking for an hour and a half or whatever it is we'd be talking about.
Yeah, no,
for that long,
The three things that stood out for me from what you've said there is take care of yourself
and each other. Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
He's not a good example for any of this, by the way.
Blast from the past. So take care of yourself before so that you're capable of taking care of those you care about and other people. Be aware of what you say and do, and nip things in the bud sooner rather than later.
Yeah. And so the way I think about this, and I don't know if these things just pop in my head all the time, so I don't know if this is true or not. But if you take care of yourself, you're going into the subconscious, or you can try and get into the subconscious and change things at that level. So then that's taking care of you. And then that makes you more aware of what you're going to say anyway, because you don't react to stuff more and you become more kind of thoughtful about things. And what was the last one? Sorry, I forgot.
So it was being what you're saying, do, and I've just I've got a mind fart again. There we go. Take care of yourself. Beware. Oh, nip things in the bud.
Nip things in the bud. That was it. Yes, because if you don't nip it in the bud, that creates that unconscious. It puts a little pin in there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it says you're going to stay here. This pin's going to stay here, and then subconsciously that'll come up from somewhere, from a thought, from a sound, from a reaction, from a situation or whatever, and then piss you off, and you won't know why. So if you nip something in the bud very quickly, it stops creating those that subconscious. And that's what I mean when you what we were talking about earlier, when you want to find your why or whatever, that's where it is. It's deep in. So yeah,
it is.
I don't know if that makes sense, but anyway, I'm tired now.
It is. Well, we covered a lot of ground. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of meat in this one. There's plenty to digest.
Seriously, I just love stuff like this, because the more conversations we can have like this, whether people are ready or not, they're going to listen to it, and something, again, subconsciously, something's going to go in there and park itself for 10 years time. And it'll go, do you remember that? And then they might go back and listen to it, or they might have listened to stuff down the line, or it might spark someone to then go off and listen to, I don't know, I want to go and listen to another podcast where they were talking about mental health or whatever and stuff like that. So I just really enjoy it, because the more people do it, the less ambiguity there is around, and the more people realize. I love this as well. And I don't know if it's a quote or just something somebody said to me once and all that, but there are no new thoughts. Whatever you're thinking, whatever you feel like your uniqueness is, not that everyone's not unique, but I'm a unique in the fact that my mum was traumatized as a kid, so therefore it's affected me. And my dad sort of like smoked and drank himself to death and all that sort of stuff. If I'm thinking that, that's not true, because there's someone else. There's definitely at least one person somewhere else thinking that.
Yeah.
If not millions. So
yes,
there are no new thoughts. Whatever you're thinking has been thought before, and you're not on your own. That's
no.
Like, so the guy, I was about to say his name there, the guy in the park who was buying stuff, and that was the addiction and all that. As soon as he told us lot, he spoke about it, and we were like, yeah. yeah, we've done that. And he was like, I know you, but the weird thing was, he goes, I know you have. Everyone has. And he knew it. So, and this is, again, 25 years might be a time. He's been doing that for 25 years, apparently, and now he's doing something about it. So,
that's it, and there's often even something as simple as opening up to people and talking about stuff with others is often from experience is enough for some people to start to make changes and go and find the help they need.
Yeah. Because
when stuff that's deeper down, the unconscious habits, etc. There's an Einstein quote that I use on a regular basis, because it just fits beautifully, and it's, you cannot solve a problem with the same level of consciousness or thinking that created it. Yeah. So when the problem's in your own head, very often you can't solve your own problem, because you're only ever coming at it from the perspective of the problem.
Yes.
It's hard to be objective about your own shit.
But the answer is always also within you as well.
Yeah, but that's where finding somebody who can help you unlock that is the way forwards, definitely. Yep.
Absolutely. See, I love where this, I mean, honest, yeah. Anyway, I'll shut up now. I'm not going to be talking for hours, aren't I? Honestly, every time I say something and then stop, you say something, and then honestly, it makes my head just go, right, oh man, right, yeah, there's this and there's this and there's this. So yeah, anyway.
It's all good. So the next thing, what are you working on at the moment? Obviously you've got your you've got your personal training and the strength coaching and the Health Oddity podcast. Is there anything else that you're working on? And obviously within the show notes for this, you'll give me all the links and I'll put all the details for people to get in touch with you.
Do you know what? I used to have links to loads of stuff and everything, but I haven't anymore because, I spoke to a guy today actually who listens to our podcast, who got in touch with me because of that and about training online.
Yeah.
And he'd gone onto my website, which I don't really use anymore, and downloaded something from there. And then he was on an email list and that I'd forgotten about. Totally forgot about this email. I did it years ago and I'd forgotten about it. And there's a 28-day challenge on there, which I haven't pushed it for ages. I don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Because, it was all about, it was an online thing about teaching how beginners online, which is a nightmare, especially for anything physical, because you can hurt yourself quite easily. So teaching beginners in person, not simple, but you've got your eyes on them. Teaching people who already know what they're doing and giving them the program online, no problem. So I don't really have links to everything anymore. I mean, basically, I'm Peter Lant on Instagram. I think. Peter Lant on Instagram, Peter Lant on Facebook. There's two of them, which are both me. And basically, it's a picture of me and Sid on Facebook, my dog. So you'll recognize that one.
Excellent.
But yeah, and then the Health Oddity podcast, which is me, my good friend James and Paul Bassett as well. James St. Pierre, who owns a place in where is it? Chelmsford, and Paul in Putney. But yeah, so what I'm working on at the minute, we're just trying to get the podcast out more, and just basically get rid of all the crap that's out there, and just tell people what they need, like what they need to know, without all the jargon and all that sort of stuff. And then personally, I'm training guys in the park. There's a limit on that because there's only a certain amount of people I can train, and I want to keep it quite smallish anyway, because we all chat and we all get to know each other and all of that. So that's good. And then I do some online programming as well for people, coaching. Okay. So who kind of like roughly know what they're doing, but just aren't getting the results that they want. So which usually comes down to finding things on YouTube and here and there and hopping around different things and working out what to do. And it's like, I can, come to me for a program and I'll sort you out.
Yeah.
But the best way to find that is like contact me on Instagram or something like that. Just send me a message.
Okay. Well, we'll chat. I'll get any details you want put on here, and I'll make sure that's all squared away anyway. Mate, honestly, Peter, I've loved this conversation today. It's gone just absolutely flown by.
My bladder is about this big by now, right? Honestly, I've needed a wee for the last 20 minutes, but
bladder like a space hopper.
Exactly.
Right. Call it quits and let you go pee. But thanks again. We'll get all this stuff squared away, and we'll no doubt we'll probably chat again at some point in the future anyway.
Oh, definitely, absolutely.
In this, well, certainly in this, but outside of this for definite. But in this form, probably again at some point. So, but yeah,
absolute pleasure. Thanks. I forgot to say at the very start. Thank you for having me on. By the way,
pleasure.
Every podcast I listen to, people are like, "Oh, it's an honor to be here," and all that. And that didn't even cross my mind when I started. Sorry about that. And it is. Thank you. Honestly, I think this is the first podcast I've been a guest on. So
really,
yeah. So thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure.
It's been amazing. It's been funny being on the other side because you start talking, ask me questions, and I'm like, oh hang on. It's much easier the other way.
Yes. Excellent. Right. Well, we'll leave it on that one, and we will speak again in the very near future.
Absolutely. Love it.
Cheers.
Thank you.